Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. This is Back to Basics, Staff Augmentation, coming to you from Trimble/eBuilder. My name is Marty Moran. I work for eBuilder, and I'm on the partner team. That makes me responsible to act as a liaison between eBuilder and some of the partners that we work with, both during implementations and afterwards. And joining us today is Matt Bohan. Matt, I'm going to let you introduce yourself in a moment, but as I understand it, you are like the grand poobah, the Caesar of professional services for us, and doing a great job.
Yeah, I've got a couple different names that have been called. That's one of them. So I'm Matt Bohan, Director of Customer Optimization. Me and my team work closely with our clients. Once they become a client, we work with them to ensure their success. To make sure that we engage, inspire, and achieve, and ultimately make sure that we get the results and success that you all are looking for from your PMIS system. So thank you for joining us today.
Terrific. And I know I've got my slides a little bit out of order here. We're going to jump into partner information in a minute. But Matt, I'd like for you to expand upon what that really means. When eBuilder is selected by an organization and your team engages, what happens? How does that evolve? How does the handover take place and so forth? And what are some of the things that your team is able to bring to the client?
Yeah, so it's a great point to bring up. So, what we're here for today, right, is get an extra pair of hands, right, in dealing with your PMIS system, right. So we wanted to make sure that we at least outline what we're talking about, and like any software that you all are utilizing or getting success from, there needs to be an administrator, right? Somebody that's going to help administrate the system after the initial implementation. Some of those activities could mean, simple things that happen weekly, like adding new users or removing access from old users. Could be, responsible for supporting internal, external users for training purposes. Configuration changes, either to modify a process that's existing or maybe build a new process that's needed by the organization. Because eBuilder is a massive tool, right? There's a lot that can be done with it, and oftentimes we see clients kind of start off slowly and continue to add functionality to the system as they get more and more comfortable with it and adopt it more and more. And the great thing about it is, right, we help train your administrators to do that. From the very beginning, it's ideal to have your administrators, the team that's going to actually manage the system after it's implemented, part of the implementation, right? So as we're going through and implementing, we're able to show them not only the how eBuilder works, but also the why, right? Why we make decisions on how to configure things, to really bolster their knowledge base. And then as we get close to the end of the implementation, we do a deep dive administrative training to teach you all how to configure the system, make changes to processes, add new users, add new projects, create reports, anything that is maybe over and beyond the scope that we actually do. And again, that's going to happen. You're going to need those changes throughout the life of the system, right? No business is ever stagnant for 5 years, right? There's always changes that come about. We want to make sure that you're empowered to make those changes. So we have a motto, right? We really try and teach our clients how to fish, right? Ideally, if you all are successful in maintaining the system afterwards and are able to keep that success rolling, that's perfect. That's ideal for us. But in this day and age, as we're seeing, oftentimes our clients just do not have either maybe the skill set available within the organization, maybe just don't have the headcount, or really just don't want to have to deal with it, right? We have clients that are like, listen, that's not our business, isn't administrating the system. Our business is getting these construction projects done. So they're oftentimes looking for staff augmentation, right? Somebody that can take over those administrative capabilities from the team and manage the eBuilder system. And so that's really what we're here to talk about today, is what those options are. And we have a couple, right? eBuilder provides a managed service offering, as well as Marty, who works closely with our partner program, also offers that. So Marty, do you want to maybe talk through the partner side first, and then I'll jump in and talk about our managed services?
Sure. I think it's a great time to do that. Of course, true to form, I missed a housekeeping item, folks. There's a chat button over to the right with any questions that come up, any comments that you have, anything that you'd like to post for us. Please feel free to enter those in, and we'll try to respond to those as they come up. So one of the questions we get often, who are our partners? What do they do? and how do we work together. And to address that, when we look at organizations that we work with, I think the names are pretty familiar to our clients already. So we work with a lot of the leading project and construction and program management firms out there. You see some really large organizations like AECOM, Parsons, and CDM Smith, and so forth. And these are groups that deliver construction projects the world over, and it's what they do day in and day out. But also, they're often called upon to express an opinion or get involved with the selection of a tool like ours, a PMIS solution. So as a consequence, many of these firms have grown practices within their firms, actually to take on whether the recommendation of a product like eBuilder and some of the buildup in creating RFPs to validate the selection of a solution, as well as to engage in some of the pre-implementation planning, some of the discovery processes, and so forth. And we actually have a handful of partners that also take on implementation, so have grown their expertise through training and experience in implementing eBuilder. And so you notice the names on this particular slide, again, very recognizable large companies that we tend to all know that deliver construction projects. When we look at this next slide, we also work with a very good number of small specialty firms, and some of them not so small. I probably should be careful about how I say that, but maybe these groups typically take on an aspect of implementations, such as for a particular market sector like healthcare or like education or water districts and so forth. In addition, they often dig in a little bit deeper and help to bridge the gap between eBuilder and some of the other systems that are used by organizations like yours. So if you're running a water district or if you're running a healthcare organization, there are other systems in place to manage your accounting, maybe to manage your facilities management and so forth. And these companies often specialize in those services and bringing integrations across the organization and so forth. And then the third classification of partner that we're going to are some of the largest accounting and professional services firms around the world, the Accentures, the Deloittes, and so forth. And often they will work with organizations that are using eBuilder for the long term. They may be involved in a lot of organizational change, organizational refit, and so forth, and really employing eBuilder or working with eBuilder as a part of a larger solution, bringing dashboards across the organization. So when people ask us, who is the right partner for us to work with, what do they do, how do they get involved, and so forth, there are actually a number of answers to that. So our partners, as you can see, typically do many things. We use the term multidisciplinary firms, but construction, program, and project management firms, as you see, construction management firms that will actually work at risk, right? So as an agency, you may be confronting a project the likes of which you haven't taken on ever before, or maybe it's been so long since you've done this sort of thing, you don't have the muscle memory organizationally to take this on fresh. These are organizations that do this serially. It's every day. It's what they do. It's in their blood, right? And then architecture and engineering services, right? The design stuff. So much earlier in the process than shovels in ground. You notice a couple of those names there that I mentioned that are very specifically systems integrators and implementation folks. So they don't so much take on construction management as they take on the selection of and the assistance of implementing eBuilder or systems like eBuilder. And then the last point I'll make here, we mentioned those very large accounting firms, global accounting firms. Often they're helping organizations with organizational change, implementing best practices, really looking across the planet for what other organizations are doing and how they can assist in making those sort of things happen. So, Matt, I want to point back to you for a moment, and let's talk a little bit about how we always, as eBuilder, take on the kind of the first line of defense with implementation, right? So we want to be there for every one of our clients. We're not turning our backs on our clients. We're not saying goodbye when we sell them software. We really do want to be that that first and last line of defense.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's you talk through some of those partner offerings, right? And eBuilder has managed service offerings, right? And so that's really a post-implementation functionality, right? That administrative work that I was talking about up front is a job that we can take on for our clients, and we do with a lot of our clients. Again, maybe it's they don't have the staff, they don't have the time. Sometimes they just don't want to deal with it, right? I mean, we have a lot of organizations that would just rather outsource it, right? We'd rather not have the staff and have to deal with, people leaving, right? We're seeing that throughout the industry, and really in all industries, right? It's, constantly people are job jumping, right? So, a lot of our clients just don't want to deal with it, and they're just like, hey, we want to outsource it and make it someone else's problem, right? And that's work that we can take on and do those managed service offerings, right? So we work closely with our clients, and we are specific to eBuilder, right, and to that product, which is a big difference between us and the partner programs, right, that you just talked about, because our skill set's only going to go so far, right? We do have construction experts, right? We know the industry, we know the eBuilder product, and then we learn your organization and how you do business pretty quickly, so that we can do similar things, right? Offer best practices, make configuration changes, manage the user base, do trainings on demand, and really just help facilitate the success of the organization utilizing the PMIS system. But that's kind of where we stop, right? We don't dive into, maybe managing some of the other systems that are being utilized, working on, the connectors or the integrations within those other systems, right? We can own eBuilder and we can work through that, but that's kind of really where we stop. So it's nice to have both of those options, where with the partner program, right, if you're looking for something maybe a little bit broader, a little bit more beyond just the eBuilder administration functions, we have that offering. If it is going to be, hey, we have that covered, we have all of those other areas in lock, and we just need someone to focus on eBuilder, again, the partner program could be an option as well, or going directly with eBuilder in the managed services offering, where we can then step in and help take and alleviate the workload of administrating the system.
Thank you for illustrating that point. And it's kind of interesting. You mentioned managed services, and I think we always need to expand upon an explanation of that, right? The way I think of it, when our partners engage or we engage, it's to the point that we make with the title of the session, an extra pair of hands, but it literally is an eBuilder expert that is designated for a given client. And I think I've got that about right. They're kind of on call, almost acting as a staff member. In the old days, I used to tell my consultants, take your coffee cup to the client's office, leave it there, right? You're going to be there for a while. Probably we're doing that a little more virtually today, right? We're able to deliver a lot of our services in a remote fashion, which in my opinion, I think is bearing out, is much more efficient, much more cost effective in many ways for the client. In particular, as things come up, right? The best laid plans go along, we're implementing the systems up and operational, but all of a sudden something happens. And if I have this correct, one of your people or one of the managed services professionals is the go-to person for a specific client to reach out to and say, hey, this happened today, we're not sure why, can you help us with this? Is that kind of fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely, right. So it's a great point, right? They are a dedicated resource, right? And that's the differentiator, right? Somebody is assigned to your account, and we have different offerings, right? We can do full-time, meaning they're 100% dedicated to your account and your account only, where we're working very closely day in and day out, actively engaged working through the system. And then we have some other offerings, right? A half-time resource and even down to a quarter-time resource, which essentially is like 1 week a month, right? They're dedicated to your account. And we just work closely, and we bring in some project management skill sets to ensure that we're meet the need of the organization and help identify, okay, if this is the scope that we want to try and implement, whether it's some new processes, configuration changes, trainings, right? We help schedule that out so we can ensure that we're going to meet the needs and get everything addressed within the time allotted, and work closely to prioritize that work and then execute, right? That's what the team is there for, to execute. And so, yeah, they would be that dedicated resource that, anytime something comes up. Obviously, we have the support team, right? For the end users, we'd still reach out to the support team to talk through, any challenges that they're having with a particular process or page. But, for the let's say the champion, the team that's, actively owning the eBuilder system, right? They would have that point person now that they could reach out to and say, hey, here's something here's a challenge we have. How can we solve this with eBuilder, right? How can we get a new process, or how can we enhance our invoice process to reduce the cycle time, right? Those are the types of things that we sit down and address. Having the experience of 25 years of experience within the construction industry and managing eBuilder, be able to sit down and say, here are the best practices, here's the changes that we should make and implement, right? And gather that information, gather the requirements from the team, and then again, just go and execute. So it's a great point. Yeah, we definitely, with the managed services, have that dedicated person that's there as a point of contact.
Thank you for making that point as well. Of course, at eBuilder, we do include with every one of our implementations 24/7 support. We have that again, I use the term line of defense. We have people to pick up the phone and address a client's question, and we've done that for decades now. We very much believe in it, right? A client should be able to call and get someone on the phone and ask their question and get a response to it. But having that dedicated individual, that human that really is assigned to the organization, that has worked with the organization, that has been providing services and so forth, they've gotten to know the environment, they've gotten to know the workflows, for example, that have been set up at the client, so they can often speak directly to it. And it's kind of funny to think about this in the context of partner versus eBuilder managed services. In many respects, they sound similar. However, to the point that you made earlier, our partners tend to be a little bit broader. So it's not just the eBuilder piece. It may be the larger context within the organization, right? So why should that workflow change? It's not happening in a vacuum. There's a reason that the configuration of eBuilder is being updated. We tend to preach constant and recurring improvement, right? So you implement a software system and it's great the day that it's implemented, but 6 months later, a year later, we really should revisit. Are we getting the most out of our investment? Are we working as efficiently across our organization as we can? And eBuilder is very much, you've used the term configurable, a configurable system where in which the client can come back and refine those processes and so forth. And we teach the client to do that. So it's not so much our people or our partners' people in turning the dials in eBuilder. Our clients can do that, but often we're a sounding board, right? We're helping establish that baseline and taking an organization to the next level. So we find our partners are very much a part of that. And then one of the things I like to talk about is this can be confusing. And we're talking about eBuilder and we're talking about Parsons. Where does one begin and the other? And it is very, very important for us to document and scope that, from the beginning. We very much believe in swim lanes, right? We never want to get into a situation where we're pointing to the partner and the partner's pointing to us and we're saying each other's wrong. We don't get ourselves into those situations. We've been very, very successful because we insist upon documenting this from the beginning and making sure that we're working together. And, frankly, our partners are our trusted partners. We work with them for a reason. Everybody's got a first project, right? Every one of our partners has had that. And we will add new partners as time goes on, but we mentor through, we work through implementations kind of as an oversight process to ensure that we're on the same page, to ensure that we're communicating clearly and concisely with the client team. So we're never put into a position where we're pointing fingers at each other. And that's always critical in these situations. So I'm wondering, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, absolutely right. I think a huge lead for us, right, is having that certification program in place for the partner organizations, right, to ensure that we're doing things consistently, right, because we do want to stand behind our partners and ensure that when a client is utilizing a partner, that we feel they're going to be set up for success, just as if we were, there implementing it or managing the system. So having that certification program in place to ensure that we know the quality that's being delivered to the clients is awesome.
Indeed, indeed. And again, you illustrate a good point. Our partners go through a rigorous evaluation and training process, and they're recertified again and again and again, right? It's not something like, hey, I went to a training class a few years ago, I think I got this, or I saw a YouTube video, I'm going to now, change the brake pads on my car. Good luck, right? No, it's a very rigorous process. It is the same process we put our own staff through, right? And again, it's assessment, education, and so forth. We work to close the gaps in knowledge. There are a lot of components to eBuilder. I tend to use the term, it's a holistic PMIS solution. It's document management, it's cost control, it's schedule control, cash flow. There are many, many components. And knowing all of those is a formidable task, right? It takes time, it takes experience, it takes training. And again, the process that we take our partners through is very much the same process we take our own people through. I know we're going to run low on time here, but in a meeting yesterday, like everybody else, you tend to hear this term, the Great Resignation, and what's going on in the marketplace today. I think all of our organizations are struggling to get the right people in, to get the right people where we want them to be, and so forth. We know our clients have that challenge. We know our partners have that challenge. And, frankly, we have that challenge as eBuilder, right? It's not something that's unique to a given sector or a given organization. I tend to think of staff augmentation and working together as a way to start to bridge some of that. We won't always have the right people to do everything we want to accomplish, for example, as an agency. Again, I think it gives more credence, if you will, to the sorts of things, the types of services that your team can provide and that our partners can provide. And I'm wondering if you've got any kind of real world examples of that. My hair's on fire, we don't have the people now that we used to have and all that sort of stuff. And I just put you on the spot, didn't I?
No, it's okay. And it's come up a lot, especially over, I'd say probably really since the beginning of the year, I think is when we really started to see, get a lot of those calls of, I need help, right? Somebody, our system administrator who's been with us 5 years, 10 years, they left the organization and now we're not sure where to go, right? They were the go-to, they, made sure everything was running smoothly. Every time they had a question, they would go to this person and now they're gone. And it takes a lot of time to bring someone into your organization, to get them ramped up on who you are, then to get them ramped up on eBuilder so that they can start producing, right? And having options like managed services or the partner organizations, right? 2 of the 3 issues are already done, right? We already have people on staff that are construction experts, right? Who've been in this business, who have been dealing with these types of organizations, as well as the knowledge of eBuilder and how it works, and the lessons learned and best practices of implementing it. So now our ramp up time is very small, right? It's, hey, how do we get ramped up on that client organization and what they do? And we can do that quickly because, as you see, right, you go from an organization, there's not a lot of differences, right? Everyone's got nuances of how they do things, but at the end of the day, it's still construction and it's still the industries that we serve, and we understand that business. So we can get up to speed very quickly and start moving things along so that our clients aren't sitting there saying, okay, our program may go in the tank. We don't know how to report on this stuff because we got changes we need to make. And it just allows us to jump in quickly. Again, same with our partners, right? Can jump in quickly and get things moving to make sure that the business continues to drive forward and doesn't hit any roadblocks.
Well, you're right, and it's kind of interesting. I happen to live more on the business development side when we're just getting started with potential clients, and more often than not, we hear the challenge is not that we don't want technology, not that we don't think we can take it on. We just don't have the staff right now. We just don't have the people to take this on. And oh my goodness, here comes a giant project or program or funding coming from IIJA, for example, or other sources that we've never had the opportunity to work with before. And frankly, organizationally, we don't think we're ready for that. And we hear that many, many times. And so Again, the concept of staff augmentation, in particular to address something that's maybe unprecedented within an organization, something that's new, something you haven't taken on, can really help to kind of get past that initial hurdle and allow the organizations, and we've seen it time and again with organizations that we work with, kind of build to the system and the in-place processes and so forth, because now we have a template for it. Now we know how to identify the people that make sense for this type of work. And, frankly, we're in the same pool looking and working with the same types of people that the e-builders of the world are, the partners are, and so forth, really kind of in that ecosystem now. So it does become easier over time.
Yeah. And I think it's good, like as we're talking about this, right? For those that are out there listening, thank you. And I think start looking at that, right? Start looking at, once we do select the system and we're implementing, who is going to administrate that, right? Who's going to be those administrators? Start thinking about that now, because we actually did a webinar, I think it was about 2 weeks ago, with our existing client base, where we talked about great administrators and what they do. And the two key people we had on there were both very actively involved in the implementation, and now they've been at those organizations and with eBuilder for one of them for 5 years, the other for 10 years. And they reiterated that, right? Being part of the implementation and hearing again the why we made decisions on what to implement and how to route things through the processes was just as valuable as the how to do it, right? So having those administrators in place during the implementation is important, and so starting to think through that. And I think it's safe to say, right, just reach out to us, right? Because we're going to help you, whether it's again eBuilder Managed Services or the partner program, right? You can come to us and we can help guide you. And I would assume, Marty, right, you showed a lot of different partners and a lot of different skill sets within those partners. We'll help navigate that, right? We'll help talk to them about where we think the right organizations are and what the right needs are, and help kind of navigate that. So it's not, let me go, Google search for who to bring on.
No, you're absolutely right. We are matchmakers in some respect, right? So we're happy to make those introductions. We're happy to reach across the organization. You and I talk often. Our team and your team, we're on the phone every couple of weeks, comparing notes, helping not just new clients, but in-place clients, maybe that have had eBuilder for a number of years, and just making those introductions, finding the right resources to help clients get what they want out of the system and continue to improve it. That's what we get paid to do. So we're pretty lucky, folks. I really do thank you for your time today, our attendees, and Matt, yourself. Great work as always, folks. We look forward to talking to you in the future. And it's halfway through Wednesday. We're going to get there. Take care, folks.
Awesome. Thank you, Marty. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.